come closer. Before you even think about sponsoring that man over here, you need to watch this video. If you are an American woman that's considering filing for your African spouse to come over to the United States, there are so many big things to consider before taking this very massive step. Now, depending on your circumstance, depends on the type of visa you would file under. So if you're not familiar with the visa process, I'm going to give you the most general, easy understand information. Please note that I am not an immigration attorney, nor am I pretending to be. If you are unsure, always speak with an immigration attorney who can give you the most accurate information pertaining to your situation. Now let's start with the most common visa that you've heard about, and that's the K-1 visa. And the easiest way to remember the K-1 visa and what it serves is think about 90 Day Fiancé, the crazy show on TLC where the American spouse has their spouse that is a foreigner come over with the intent to marry, but they have to marry within 90 days. If not, then the visa is practically invalid and then the government's gonna come for you. So remember, K-1 visa equals 90 Day Fiancé. Normally the K-1 visa is like the fiancé visa. So to qualify for the K-1 visa, the petitioner, who is the person that is going to file, has to be a U.S. citizen that is unmarried with the intent to marry within that time frame of 90 days. So for example, I'm a U.S. citizen and I'm engaged to a man in Ghana and I want to marry him. I can file for him as long as I am not married. Now, if I'm currently married to Peter down the street and I'm trying to marry Chuku in Ghana, that's not going to happen. That's going to be invalid. That's going to mess up everything. Deny, deny, deny. Also, there has to be a clear intent that we are going to get married. So the government wants to see that there are wedding plans. There has to be some type of venue booked. There has to be some type of detailed showing with payments to different vendors or services or freelancers to show that you are actually going to marry. Now, you don't have to have an outlandish, expensive, crazy wedding, but it really needs to show that you are thoroughly planning this, not some shotgun wedding. Now, the most common used visa is the immigrant visa, and this allows a non-US citizen or immigrant to come over as a permanent resident with the intent of staying, meaning that if I am a U.S. citizen and Chuku in Nigeria or in Ghana, wherever he is, see, look at that. Look at that. The government would be like, how you don't know where your husband is? So, let me start over. So I'm the U.S. citizen and Chuku in Ghana, I want him to come and live with me. We got married in Ghana. He's officially my husband. And I feel like we need to be living under the same roof, obviously. So I am going to file the non-immigrant visa. So let's say, for example, Chuku and I are married. We got married when I went over there to visit him on my 5th visit, not the first, in Ghana. And we got married on the 5th visit, not the first visit, not the second visit, not even the 3rd visit, but the 5th visit, we got married. And now I want Chuku to come over and live with me. So I'm going to file the immigrant visa so that not only can he come over, but he can stay and he can get a green card. And then he can also, after a certain amount of years, apply for his citizenship. Now remember, there are several different subtypes of these visas, and each category has a specific reason for a specific scenario. So let me give you another example. So there are family-based, employment, diversity lottery visas or lottery visas. And then there's also refugee asylum seeker. So of course, family-based. So let's say that I'm a US citizen and I want to file for my mom that lives in Jamaica to come live with me. I can do that. Let's say that I live in, let's say Canada, for example, and I want to come over to the United States to work, and I found a great tech company that would sponsor me, I would come over on that employment visa. Or if I worked for the government or was like a diplomatic or something, because I know someone that was, and they lived in Nigeria, but they ended up getting a government job in the United States. And of course, the US government filed for them to do that under certain circumstances. That's also a possibility. The lottery visa, which you might not hear about that often, but I actually know someone personally that their parents came over on a lottery visa, which is like 1 in a gazillion chance. I may be exaggerating, but it's not very common. If it was a lottery visa, everybody would have like came over if it was like that promising. But their parents came over, and then because their parents came over on that lottery visa, their parents ended up sponsoring them to come over under the family-based visa. So it worked out for them. And then of course, the refugee asylum seeker visa. So when you think about, for example, depending on where you live, there's a lot of Haitian migrants that are coming over into the United States. And more than likely, those Haitian migrants are asylum seekers, because the stuff that is going on in Haiti it's way too chaotic for anyone to live over there. There's gangs that are taking over, people are dying, getting kidnapped. It's a lot of violence going on in that country right now. So people are fleeing for, the purpose of safety and having a better life. And those people would fall under that, for example. Now, if you're interested in about the document process, the filing, the financial process of this entire thing, I also recommend consulting an immigration attorney. But let's say you can't afford one. If you go on TikTok, there are immigration attorneys that are giving this information for free. Now, of course, they're doing the same thing I'm doing, just much more on a deeper level. And if you want to get specific information to your scenario, they'll answer the most baseline. But of course, you're going to have to go for a consultation. And some of them even give consultations for free. There's also a TikTok creator. I'm going to put her name in here. She actually is American, and her husband is from the Gambia. And she knows the visa process in and out in her sleep. I'm telling you. And she even has her own visa website where she basically helps American women get their husbands over here. She is great at what she does. I'm gonna put her information in here and in the description box so that you can go follow her on TikTok. She's really good. Her name is Buttash, and she's super sweet. Now that we got that process out of the way, let's get into the real deal. Starting with, before you even think about sponsoring this person for them to come over to the United States, you need to know, because the US government is going to want to know, do you know this man? And if you do, how well do you know this man? Oh, baby, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life, my wife. All that aside, do you have his legitimate address? Not the room or the apartments that they get with like all 5 of them staying there, and it's not really where they actually live. It's like, I don't even know what to call it. The best way to call it in like US terms is like maybe a rooming house. Do you have his real address where all his information goes? Do you have that? Do you understand his culture? What tribe is he from? What is their traditional language? What are the customs and traditions that they follow? What's his job history? What legitimate job has he had? If he says that he's a business owner, what legitimate business does he do? Does he have a criminal record? You need to find this stuff out. Obviously, if he has a criminal record, there's no way he could come over anyways. But still find that out, because you will be wondering why the visa process is so delayed for you to get your husband over. Well, it's because he's keeping secrets from you. He probably does have a criminal record he's not telling you about, because he thinks the US government will not find through that, but they will. Look into his family. That's why I always recommend ladies, do not go over there and get married the first time, especially not the first time that you visit. The second time, absolutely not. The third time, possibly. And it all depends on how long you stayed. I always recommend, if you're gonna go the first time, stay a week. A week is enough. That way, if the trip goes sour, you can come back. 'Cause I know women that go for the first time and buy a trip for 3 months. 2 days into the trip, the guy's ready for them to leave. The guy's not showing up. He's playing games. And then, or they see each other physically and they're not attracted to each other. So now you have a ticket for 3 months and it costs money to buy a last minute ticket, even if it's one way back into the United States. And a lot of those women don't have that. They don't. I've seen it happen so many times. So look into his family life. Make sure his sister is really his sister and not his wife. Make sure that when you understand the cultures and traditions, you know that, because for example, you see on 90 Day Fiancé, Usman wanted to marry baby Lisa. And mama was not having that. She wanted him to marry a woman, particularly of his tribe, of his country. I think maybe she would have been okay if the woman was a black woman. But he needed to marry someone that was younger, that could give him children. In that culture, that is very important to them. So remember, look at the family. Sometimes the parents, the whole family will be in on the visa sham and you won't even know it. You think that they're accepting you with open arms and you don't even know. They're thinking like, if he get over there, he can start sending money back. Then when he get over here, then he can then file for us to come over there. And speaking of marriage, you need to make sure that he is unmarried. Just like if you wanted to petition someone to come over, the US government requires you to be unmarried. He has to be unmarried as well. So you need to make sure that when you see a divorce decree, because let's say he has been married and he's been divorced. It doesn't matter if he's been married 5 times to women, and it doesn't matter. He has to be unmarried. There is a huge influx of false divorce decrees going on, particularly in Nigeria. And the reason why I keep bringing up Nigeria is because I can't talk about the experience of some other place than what I've seen and some of what I've experienced myself. So I can't talk about these things that I don't know about. So if you say, why are you talking about this now? Because I can only talk about what I know people have experienced, what I had a little taste of as well as myself. So you need to make sure you have a valid divorce decree, because the US government will see through that. And then you are so innocent. You're thinking like, wow, he told me he was unmarried. He showed me a divorce decree. You're not an expert. You don't know what like a fake divorce decree looks like unless they write it in crayon. So you're wondering, you investing all this time and money and come to find out he's not being honest on his end. And oftentimes we don't think that this is important, but baby, check that social media. Check his social media. Check that Instagram. And I'm not saying like go through his messages, but I'm saying check his following. See the type of women that he's following on social media. See the type of women that he's chatting with in the comments on TikTok, if you can. Like, check those things, because you might be thinking like, you know, he's faithful and he's not talking to anyone but me. But you could tell a lot about a man, a lot, by his social media following. Not the people that follow him, and even that depends. But you can check to see, look at the women he's following. What do they look like? That tells you in itself the type of woman that he is attracted to, that he's interested in. Look at that. I even say, look at his following to see even the type of men he's following, because there are times where you don't even know that this man could be part of the LGBT community, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm part of the community, but you want to make sure that he's not deceiving you. You need to check that, because if you are a woman that is, you know, 52 and your husband is 27 and you are happy with your weight, you might be on the plus size, or you might not be, or you are 52 but you don't look youthful. Like, you have to think about, baby, look, let's not be delusional. Look at his following and look at those women That's the type of women you want. And that's also the type of women that once he touches down, he's going to be searching for those women. And you don't want that. This is not everybody's situation, and no one's projecting. But you just want to be real, because I have heard so many stories and seen people even close to me go through those things where they find out that this man was playing them the whole time. And once that man is over here, there are certain things that he can do, and there are certain laws that the U.S. government does to protect foreigners that you might not even know about. That, mama, he don't even need you for the green card no more. Now, everyone is different, but for me, if I am interested in dating someone that's from a different culture, particularly someone that's African, West African to be exact, if he has never, this is just me, if he has never been to the US, he has never been to Europe, he has never even been to the Caribbean islands, he's never even left the continent. It doesn't matter if he traveled to countries within Africa, like that doesn't make or break for me. But if he's never been to the US, I am not gonna be talking to him, because for one, you aren't even in the immigration system for the US. Like, you've never had a visa before, so it's going to be like just too complex. Then it also tells me that if that man is like, how did you find me? Out of all the places you could look for in a woman, why did you find me in the US? So you also have to think about those things. You need to know his real name, first, middle, and last. Not his Instagram name, not his nickname, not just the name that his family calls him. What is his real name that's on his passport? What is his real name? What is his birthday? Real name, birthday, physical legitimate address. So immigration will ask you like a variety of questions, and you don't really know, but they'll ask you like questions about how did you meet, how long were you married before you petition for this person to come over, what are your hobbies and interests. So whatever you say has to match with whatever he says. And of course, because there's such an influx of romance scam with people doing visas for payment or doing visas under the guise of someone is being deceived, they are looking for any small crack to just deny. And these are questions that you can actually Google. They'll ask you things about when and where did you get married, have you met each other's families, what are your career goals, and do you have any children from previous marriages. They'll ask, what was your honeymoon like, who attended your wedding. Like, people that are truly in love, like, even sometimes it's a little hard to remember your spouse, what they like and what they don't like, even if you really love each other. So imagine two people that don't even know each other. They think that they're in love and they're trying to start this process. I think it's very important to also learn the culture. I always say that even though we may look alike, we are not the same. Because if I grew up here in the States and my spouse grew up in Nigeria, it's not gonna be the same. There are gonna be some cultural clashes. So you need to realize that, let's say that you're filing for your spouse to come over, and they do come over under the immigrant visa. Realize that there are certain things that they do that might not be normal for us. So sending money back home. Sometimes when they get paid, they immediately will send money back home. Not fully understanding that, hey, we have bills and we have expenses here. This is your primary house. You have to take care of that. But for them, it's like, well, now I'm in a better situation. I don't want to leave my family starving. And sometimes the family will demand that you don't forget about them. Please send them money. So you have to look at that, because you don't want it to be where your spouse is looking at you like, well, you were making it before I got here and we're doing pretty okay. So what's the problem with me sending like $500 back home? I always say you can take a man from his country, but you can't take his country away from him. So no matter where he is living, he will always carry that culture and traditions with him. And I always say this, and you have to listen. Whoever that man is in his country, however he is, he will be the exact same person when he gets there. So don't just expect like a magical change. It doesn't work that way. I think it's very important to note that LDR, long distance relationships, are very expensive. It's a huge investment, especially if you are the person that can easily go to countries, easily get visas. You can easily travel and you have the means to. It is very expensive. And you'll be surprised that a lot of women will beg, borrow, and steal, go into debt, drain their 401ks, borrow money from family and friends, are in just drowning in credit card debt just to go over to these countries to see these men. There are also times where women are working like 2-3 jobs just to make up the money to not only take care of what they have going on here, but to go to these countries. You see it all the time on 90 Day Fiancé, but it's in reverse. It's the guy who works at like McDonald's, for example. This was a real episode, and he worked every day, didn't take any days off, and he drained all of what he had in his 401k to go over to, I think, like, was it Manila or somewhere in like Asia, to go marry a woman. And he was, of course, the money goes far over there, so he was spending all this money, and the girl really thought that he was living large until she came back to the US because he petitioned for her, and he probably had to get a co-sponsor. And when she arrived, she didn't even know that he was living in a trailer. He worked a minimum wage job. He didn't really have it the way he did. He basically deceived her, but she also didn't do her homework. A lot of people believe that once you close the gap and you and your spouse are in the same place, that it gets less expensive, but actually it gets more expensive. And it's not easy. It's like going for a BBL procedure. The surgery is the least expensive part. People think the surgery costs the most, but it's the aftercare, the fajas, the compression garments, the lymphatic drainage, the new diet plan, the new wardrobe that you have to get, the mental toll on that it takes. Hopefully you don't get body dysmorphia. Like, there's so many factors. The after is the even. You'll also have to take into account that once he comes over, because for some of them, they're starting from scratch. A lot of the certifications that they have, or the classes, a lot of that does not transfer over into the US. College credits don't always transfer over. So he'll be basically starting from like ground zero. So you have to be okay with the fact that, hey, you might be the breadwinner for a while, up until he gets himself together, which is either going to any trade school, any technical school, getting an associate's degree, or getting his bachelor so that he can, you know, join the competition of, you know, getting a better job. Normally, when these men come over, they're working at minimum wage jobs because this is a start for them. They have to start somewhere. So whether it's like fast food, whether it's retail, whether it's at a warehouse, those are the jobs that will normally hire you without any experience, much of any skills. They'll give you an opportunity. It's also important to note that there's a lot of women, and I know some personally, who, because, for example, the conversion of USD to Naira, you literally can be a millionaire with the amount of money that some people make when they convert it. And these women then buy apartments for these guys, allowances, they get them new cars. Then these men are thinking like, oh wow, she's living great over there. She can send me extra $500 or $1,000 a month. But then when you file for these men and they get over here and they see that you're not living like that. It's totally different. Money can go further in Nigeria than it can go in the US. And a lot of them are shocked, and they're like, well, wait a minute. You were spending all this money doing this, and we were going on trips, staying on Banana Island. Why are we not doing that now? And you'll have a lot of guys that will say that, hey, don't worry, when I come over, I'm going to start working immediately. I'm going to get into IT. I'm going to go drive trucks. But that's not saying that's impossible, but you still need some type of certification, some training. And a lot of those degrees or training that they got in other countries do not transfer over because the standard is not the same. If he has no working experience, it's going to be hard for him to find a job. If he doesn't speak proper English, and not proper English like the Brits speak, but if I am talking and you can't understand fully what I'm saying, because you see it all the times on TikTok and these matchmaking lives where some of these guys, they don't understand English. They don't understand American English at all. When you talk to them, they don't understand the questions that you're asking. That's going to be a challenge. And also, don't let him sell you a dream. A lot of times there are going to be some men that come over and the first thing they want to do is join the military. And if he is so eager about doing that, please note that once he joins the military, the visa is not in your hands anymore. It's now in the US government. So please note that. If in his country, and this is no shade to anyone's hustle, because at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do. But if you are an American woman, you have to be realistic and say that if he was selling goods on the side of the road, or he was managing the gate at, you know, estates or different compounds, when he comes to the States, if that's all he did over there, when he comes over, what will he do? What job will he get? And lastly, it's so important, not just because, you know, we talked about the men, but for the women, you have to have your ducks in order. A lot of times the application process is so slow and it's delayed, and it takes people like 3 years plus to get their husbands over because things are not order here. You don't know that you're not making the significant income it needs to be able to sponsor this man without having a co-sponsor. Some people need co-sponsors. You have some women that are on Section 8. There's some women that get disability, SSI. It's going to be hard to do that. Some women live in a house where their income is not even enough to take care of all the kids that they have. So make sure that your income matches. Make sure that you are unmarried. Make sure that you have no crazy criminal record, or anyone that lives in your house does not have a criminal record. Look at Angela Dean when she tried to file for Michael and they kept getting denied so many times, not knowing that Angela had someone that was associated with her family and living in her house, which was one of her daughters, not the one that you saw on the show. So you have to make sure you have things in order. If you really enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll put all the information in the description box, and I'll see you in the next video.